I've come to yap, and today, y'all, we are going to be talking about Chainsaw Man and chapters 152 to 162. Now, this is a massive batch. For those of you guys who are returning, thank you so much for being so patient. I can't even express just how much I appreciate how patient you guys have been. And for those of you guys who are here for the very first time, what's up? My name is Locke. I speak Japanese, I speak English, I speak Korean. I'm interested in manga. I love manga. I'm relatively new to it still. Chainsaw Man was my very first manga. I love anime, of course, as well too, and so much more. So if you happen to enjoy this video, make sure to stick around for some, hopefully some good cooks, and at least just, I guess you could say, like, some pretty chill vibes as far as discussing one of my favorite stories is concerned. For those of you guys who might be wondering, like, oh, I'm disappointed in this new format or something like that, my bad. But yeah, at the end of the day, I want to kind of like do what's best for me, and of course enjoy the medium the way that I enjoy it. And I just kind of thought that you know what, fuck it, we balled today. We're just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try this type of style just because I want to. Like, I really enjoy talking about my favorite stuff, just I guess really candidly, I guess you could say. I have no dot points, I have nothing mapped out. I've really agonized about this video for like probably 2 weeks or so, like, because I've just been so worried that like I wouldn't do it justice, like I would over explain things, or I'd get, you know, too boring, like approaching things too clinically. And I've just kind of decided that, like, with the way that I present manga and the way that I talk about manga and share it over here on this channel, I just kind of want it to be like really innocent and really fun, and very similar to the same way it would be like if you were presenting your opinions or something like that to your mates at school, or you know, catching up with a friend and texting them and being like, yo, did you just fucking see what happened in Chainsaw Man chapter 162? Like, I want to carry that kind of energy and, you know, say what I have to say. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be full of all of the information. It doesn't have to be like the most in-depth chapter dive that you guys have ever seen either, because also at the same time, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you guys have to say down in the comments and stuff below as well too. So basically, yeah, I'm changing up the format a bit. Of course, for those of you guys who continue to stick around, of course, I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much for being a real one. But yeah, man, either way, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and let me know if you do down in the comments below if you happen to. Now, just a really quick heads up for those of you guys who happen to be Fujimoto fans and who happen to have been around here for a little bit. I have bought all 8 volumes of Fire Punch Man. I've finally completed my collection for it. I wanted to buy the physicals, of course, to be able to support Fujimoto, because he is one of my favorite artists slash storytellers, just period. But also because I really just wanted to, I guess, kind of try a different format, like a reading vlog type format with you guys with this. So you can look forward to perhaps volume by volume reviews with Fire Punch, and or volume by volume, I guess you could say, like read through vlogs and stuff. So I don't know, either way, you can expect Fire Punch videos. They are coming, but I hope you guys can look forward to that. So with all that said, man, I want to ask you guys one question. Did you see chapter 162? We're not going to get there yet, we'll build up to it, but holy fuck, man, the last 10 chapters of Chainsaw Man have been absolutely whack. If I'm looking over here, it's because I'm looking at my screen, and they're right up there, they're available. But man, so far things have been absolutely hectic. We've gone from my goat Fujimoto being unwashed to washed suddenly overnight, and like, dude, for the longest time I had no idea where things were going. I don't think anyone did, and I think that, you know, this is just one of those things about moving weekly with manga, but Chainsaw Man especially, stories like Chainsaw Man, where sometimes things, you know, you get time to sit with stuff, but also at the same time it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you reread stuff. And for a long time I was kind of like, oh, where are we, what are we doing? Where are we going? What's happening? Where's Denji? Where's Asa? And then all of this type of stuff. And then suddenly in the last 10 chapters they just appeared. Of course, naturally, I think pacing has been tough just on our end as far as readers are concerned, just because sometimes there was, you know, 1 week breaks, 2 week breaks, even 3 week breaks, which of course I think impede our ability to like comprehend everything in sequence perfectly. But also, that being said, Chainsaw Man is a story where I don't even know if Fujimoto knows what he's fucking doing half the time as well too. As much as I trust my goat, it's also at the same time, I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm like, what is this man cooking? Like, what is he thinking up? What is going on inside his head? And yeah, it's been a tough one. Of course, I've seen people criticize Chainsaw Man recently as well too. I'll talk about that at the end of the video, just in case anyone wants to hear my takes on that. But yeah, man, of course, the last 10 chapters, a lot of things have happened. And where I left off was at 151. So basically, Denji is in the biggest predicament that he has been in a long time. Of course, his house has been absolutely just firebombed, turned to a crisp. And unfortunately, the dogs, Meowie, gone. As far as we know, I'm hoping that at least fucking Meowie got out of there, because Meowie is like, I mean, I guess you could say Meowie is like very important to the story, in as much as Meowie is still like one of those last living representations of like Power and Denji's relationship with each other as friends, and like Denji's like friends that he had before his current situation. So his friends in part 1 and earlier part 2. But like, it's just kind of crazy to see how like everything before him has just suddenly literally gone up in flames. Like his entire future, his entire past, everything around him burns. And funnily enough, it's kind of, I guess, what you would say is representative of the hero of hell. Like, it's just absolute, complete and utter fucking carnage. And it's just, it knows no bounds, at least for him anyway. Now, does he deserve to be happy? Well, in the words of Makima in part 1, technically no. She wants to fill him up with happiness and destroy him. Even Nayuta feels pity for him, as we see in some of these chapters as well too. And, you know, he's killed his family before, like he's killed his father and stuff like that. So does he even think that he deserves to be happy? Who fucking knows? And basically, everything that we see here really just puts me on ultimate feeling hours for Dennis, bro. Unfortunately, he is fucking going through it, and this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. You know, everything has been going on. He's been trying to lull himself into this, I guess you could say, false sense of security. He's been trying to believe on that cope. He has been fucking inhaling that cope so hard that his life is okay, that he's happy with his life. He's content with it. And you know what? Technically, he's got his bottom line. He's got a roof over his head. He's got food in his stomach. He's protected. He gets to go to school. He gets to be an ordinary human being and all of that type of stuff. He doesn't have to turn into Chainsaw Man. But he's also technically got the reincarnation of the girl that he once chased. So, you know, he might not have Makima, and he might not really want Makima, of course, after what happened. But, you know, he's got Nayuta. He's got a sense of duty. He wants to look after her. He wants to take care of her. And he wants to, you know, have a family with her, in the sense that he wants to look after her, supposedly, as far as I'm concerned, as a little sister. He wants something to protect. He wants something to stand for. But also at the same time, it's almost like that's not enough for him. I mean, if there is ever a character that is the epitome of a masochist, I'm thinking that Denji is starting to really kind of err that way, purely just because everything around him goes wrong. Anyone that he gets close to, as far as women are concerned, wind up either trying to fucking kill him, or they die. Or they die. And I mean, realistically as well too, when I was thinking about this as well too, when I had this thought, I was like, oh, but technically, you know, like, he's close with Asa, but Asa's not trying to kill him. But who, you know, Yoru. Yoru's trying to kill him. She wants his head. She wants his head. She wants him dead. And it's an absolutely insane type of situation that we've got out here. Now, the end of chapter 152 was great. I'd read this when it first came out. I'd initially had another review video that I put up for it, but I decided that I wanted to kind of like let things cook a little bit more, just because I found that reviewing things chapter by chapter personally gets me nowhere, which is part of the reason why this video has taken so long. It's like one of those things where I feel like you just need context with Chainsaw Man. You need even a straw to be able to grab at, and we simply did not have any straws. We had nothing. We just had like, it was just us and nothing, and us in the void. And I was like, oh, okay. Cool. I have no idea what the fuck's going on, but cool. He's gone ahead and he's absolutely destroyed the hybrids. Don't worry, by the way, this is not going to turn into, you know, some chapter recap and all of that type of stuff. I'm basically just going to talk about what I think is important, and the rest of that type of stuff. If anyone else found anything else that they want to talk about, go for it. But he's basically gone ahead and he's snapped, man. He's had an emotional break. He's just gone, nah, fuck it. The only way for me to get out of this situation is to turn into Chainsaw Man. He knows the risks. He knows the risks, but he accepts them in the moment. And he's got nothing else that he can technically do here. And this is why his previous life is not enough for him, because he craves more. He craves love. He craves attention. He wants people to notice him. He wants people to see him, because he, as a human being, has been neglected his entire life. He's been nothing but a tool, a literal chainsaw for people to wield, for people to use for their own benefits. And he has been for Makima, he has been for public safety, and he has been even by, you know, the Yakuza, so Katana Man's grandfather and stuff like that. He's been used up and spit out, and he's been thrown away even when it was convenient for others as well too. And so now I think my man has just completely had a snap. Everything about chapter 152 is just him going fucking berserk. And it's pure carnage, the way that you see him rip up the fellow hybrids. Of course, he knows that they're fellow hybrids, they're people just like him in a similar situation, but he's practically disemboweling himself, and he's eating them, and he's trying to just take them all down. And then even in chapters just following that as well too, he's saying to the people, look, I defeated them. I've gotten rid of them. I got rid of all the big bad devils. And yet at the same time, he's completely clueless to the fact that everyone's actually after him. He's the only enemy here. He's been made public enemy number one by not just public safety, but also technically, by extension, the Chainsaw Man Church as well, and Fami as a result. Now, the title of the chapter being Massage, I love it. I absolutely fucking love how Fujimoto does this shit, man. Because indeed, this is the perfect way to put it. It's the perfect way to talk about, I guess what you can say, like that sweet spot is between pain and gain. And for him, it hurts like an absolute fucking bitch. Turning into Chainsaw Man causes him nothing but pain. Yes, he's able to do something. He's able to feel useful. He's able to make an impact. He's able to save those that he wants to save. But does he really? Can he really? And do things wind up working out the way that he wants to anyway? Because all of those who he's held close to him previously have died. Aki has died. Power has died. Asa has been under threat. Nayuta is now under threat. Makima is dead. Deze betrayed him as well too. Everything is just not going right for him. And so turning into Chainsaw Man, for him, whether he realizes it or not as well too, is part of what has inflicted and continues to inflict all this damage around him. But then again, at the same time, it's the only thing that he can do to feel useful. It's the only thing that he can do to feel loved. And I feel like these chapters, I personally absolutely adore for that, because you see just how insane he goes. He loses it. He loses it. He even tells Nayuta that she shouldn't be around him anymore. She shouldn't be here. He wants to protect her, I believe, as well too. He genuinely wants to look after her. He wants to make sure that she stays out of harm's way. But also at the same time, when you're in a situation like this, you don't necessarily think rationally. You don't think logically. He's just snapped. He's gone off the rails, and he thinks that this is the best way to get out of this situation, and that this is the best way to cope with these overwhelming emotions and this overwhelming pain that he's currently feeling. Now, when it comes to Nayuta, because I mentioned her just before, I think that this is a really important couple of chapters, I think, to understanding her character a little bit more. I'm not going to lie, when I read 152, 153, and I'm pretty sure 154, I started to become quite fearful about what the control devil could be like if we do not have her under control. Now, I think there's two different types of like theories that I can work with here, and they're really the only two I think that we've kind of like, well, I mean, there's a thesis and there's an antithesis, rather, should I say. I feel like there's one that we're being fed, and then there's another way that you can think about it, right? And basically what I'm talking about here is, does Nayuta actually care for Denji as much as we would like to believe? And will she stay on that path of trusting him and trying to forge a relationship with him as she has been so far? Or is she just playing along in order to fill him up with that happiness, to then completely destroy him in order to find out who she truly is? Because if she does that, then she will draw out Chainsaw Man, and then she will find out who she truly is and what it was that Makima truly wanted as well too. Is she a slave to that way of thinking? Is that just how things are meant to go? Or is she able to actually choose her own fate and choose her own life? Does she even have control over her own life? Is essentially the question, I think, that I've been thinking about a lot with this as well too. Now, naturally, Denji says that he doesn't want Nayuta. He doesn't need her. He wants to protect her and that she should get away. But here she proves as well too that she's far more useful than he thinks. Naturally, he wants to take care of her because he believes that she is family, and he says so, even when he's trying to reassure her when she's got questions about, who am I? If I do this, like she probes him, I think it's in chapter 155. I say that I'm looking at this and I'm hardly really like looking at it. It's constantly on one panel. It's just constantly on this panel of NPCs getting completely fucked up. But anyway, with that, Nayuta is basically wondering whether or not the tried and tested way that Makima went is the right way to know her true self, or whether or not she has the ability to forge her own path and make her own decisions as well too. She obviously shows promise here. We see flashbacks, and I'll talk about those in a sec, but here she shows promise in as much as she does everything that she possibly can to save Denji. It seems that she reads between the lines. She knows that she can be of use to him. She wants to be of use to him, and so she wants to help him. She wants to get him out of this situation. Now, she carries him off. He winds up in a hospital somehow, and I have no fucking idea what the entire situation with that is. I have no idea how he got there. Like, I don't know whether or not he was intercepted on the way of like being carried out of the battle by Nayuta as well too, or whether or not you know, like he was intercepted by public safety in the meantime and they like actually caught up to Nayuta. Maybe we might see that in a flashback, or whether or not she actually brought him to the hospital herself. Maybe she might have wanted to do that so that, you know, he could be taken care of, or she happens to be working with public safety. I know that sounds like an absolutely fucking batshit crazy theory, but I don't know how the fuck he got to the hospital. All right, I've read this so many times and I'm like, how'd he get there? Where did he go? He just got carried off, and that's all we see of that. But as we saw here, Nayuta used one of her 3 chains that she can possibly use at any one given time to save Denji, and the other 2 to fight off those who were trying to obviously harm her and kill her after Budem so perfectly instigated the mob and was able to try and convince them that he was being controlled by her, which is an absolutely crazy scene of acting by him, by the way. Budem does not disappoint as far as his character is concerned. You can see that his desperation, his like fanaticism in making sure that this plan is carried out and goes to plan is incredible. I absolutely love seeing it. But Nayuta helps Denji out and of course asks Fumiko, who I still like, I feel no attachment to her whatsoever, by the way, purely just because she's still so fucking ambiguous. Like she's done nothing so far. I'm thinking that she's done nothing because she's going to become maybe more of a villain or more of an enemy to us later, and or be like more sneaky or slick in trying to get us put down. I don't know. She's obviously like a collector, so she's creepy as hell, wants like some of his fingernails and hair and shit like that. But like, she obviously does not give a fuck about Denji. She doesn't care about Chainsaw Man. She just goes, what, this is out of my hands. Peace. See you later. I'm out. Good luck, kid. Have a good one. And for Nayuta as well too, she says that Chainsaw Man is her family. Now Denji's gone. She recognizes that she's got all of these enemies currently around her as well too. But she realizes that she doesn't get this high that she thought that she would have by killing people. Nayuta doesn't really like killing people. Whether or not Makima did is completely up to, I guess, one's own interpretation so far of however you want to read into her as a character. But Nayuta realizes that Chainsaw Man has a tough job. Obviously, there's a lot of things to how one kills a human being, and naturally as well too, Nayuta's a devil, so maybe she's going to feel different about it as opposed to any other human being as well too. But it's not something that she finds fun. She prefers like Grand Theft Auto 5 and walking around slaying NPCs or PKing other people as well too. But real life, no, she's not about it. She doesn't want any part in it. She thinks it's fucking boring and it does not give her the high. So here I start to think that with these panels, and especially just these last 10 chapters as well too, or at least should I say the first 5 chapters of the bulk part of, you know, 152 to 162, Nayuta is she's basically showing that she has a belief in family. And I'm hoping that she has a belief in the idea of family with Denji. She has a belief in the fact that they can do something, they can make it work, and that maybe she doesn't have to follow in Makima's footsteps. Now, it seems as though she had resolved herself once she had probed Denji's memory, and she had resolved herself that that's what she was going to do. She was going to figure things out Makima style. But life happened. We see this montage where we've got the toothbrush, her running senselessly with the dogs with Denji, and she's obviously having a lot of fun. She's enjoying herself. And of course, she calls Denji an idiot. He, you know, says, don't say mean crap before bed. And she starts talking about, you know, this essential, she starts talking about this identity crisis that she's having, saying that she doesn't know who she is, and that, you know, Denji is Chainsaw Man and he's a student and he's all these different labels, but to him, she's family. And that's all that matters. Yeah, sure, it's cheesy, and we say that we shouldn't be too cheesy, but I think that this is one of the rare moments in Chainsaw Man, just in general, where we get to see a pretty uncensored insight into how Denji really feels. Of course, we see part of that in part 1 with, I guess you could say, how obscure and like sometimes obscene / horny some of his perceptions of like love and affection and what they look like. But here, he's obviously seeming to take a lot more responsibility. He cares for Nayuta and he wants her to know that. He wants to reassure her, so he pats her on the head. He looks after her. And really, I do think that Nayuta as well too has done a lot to ground Denji. She's done a lot to help him grow up. And I'm hoping that she hasn't just been partaking in all of these activities, filling him up with that happiness by being happy herself, just to break him down later. I don't see that happening in the long term though, because if Fujimoto was to basically pull the same thing with Nayuta that he did with Makima in part 1, I don't know, I don't really know how I would feel about that, but we'll see. And I think that that's the biggest question for me at the moment as well too, because she's missing now. She's not here. Public safety also apparently don't know where she is. Public safety apparently also doesn't know where she is. And segueing into this perfectly, what the fuck is going on with public safety, man? What the fuck is going on with public safety? Denji wakes up in a hospital bed. He's obviously gone ahead, got himself really fucked up in that battle, and he's found himself in a pretty shitty situation. He dreams, or hallucinates rather, should I say, of like Nayuta laying on his chest, and he's waking up in the hospital bed calling out for her. And who else is waiting for us there except Mr. Tentacles, Yoshida. Now Yoshida, true to his word, has basically just said to Denji that, I thought I explained it in a way that even a fucking monkey could understand. I thought I dumbed it down enough for your pea-sized brain to understand that if you turn into Chainsaw Man, you're fucked. I can't guarantee your safety. And that's basically exactly what we see here. Denji's been drugged, he's been sedated, public safety are waiting outside his door, and of course, we have no idea what he's in for. He, all of a sudden, has this, I guess you could say, introspective moment. He's thinking. He wants desperately to get up and go and find Nayuta. Of course, he realizes that this was one of the risks of turning into Chainsaw Man, and he wants to be able to, like he has done every other time, get up, all guns blazing, and break out and go and find her and go and try and save her. I do think in a way as well too, he recognized that what he did probably wasn't necessarily the best course of action, but at the same time, his hand was forced either way. I feel like the Chainsaw Man Church had everything perfectly planned out. They knew exactly what his mental state was like. They knew exactly how Denji was going to fold. They understood him, I guess you could say, in the best way that a cult member could. Obviously, the person they worship and idolize. They understood what makes him tick. And whether or not it was going to be for the Chainsaw Church's sake or not, or Denji's or whatever, either way, public safety were probably going to wind up getting him. And apparently, they're going to dismember him. Now, this is one of the craziest panels for me, like this next sequence that I'm going to talk about. And of course, this is naturally like where the what type reaction would have come in. But seeing Pochita's little paws, the use of Fujimoto's negative space, right? You've literally just got black paneling. I absolutely love it. It reminds me of Look Back and Goodbye Eddie and stuff like that. Is Denji is once again talking to Pochita. He's talking to Pochita. The last time that he's spoken to him is basically when the house was on fire, when he turned, or at least when he saw Pochita, because Pochita was waving. He's so cute, bro. Like, Pochita's so adorable. But the contrast between Pochita and what Denji becomes, I think, is just absolutely insane. But he says, Pochita, I gotta get up. Pochita says, why? Denji goes, I have to go save Nayuta. Save her? And he's like, save her? And Denji's like, yeah. How can you do that without your legs? And then my guy wakes up in a fucking clinic. I don't even know where we are. All right, we are in an operating room on a table, strapped down, and I'm not even talking strapped down like just, you know, like any other patient. Every single limb is like securely fastened, so much so that you would expect that this man has no circulation left in his body anyway for any blood to be able to run out of any wound. And yet they've got bone saws dismembering him limb by limb. And this is just absolutely fucking gruesome. I feel like 156 is where things really start to take a turn. Not necessarily for the worse for Denji, but things really take a turn as far as his storytelling is concerned. Because the emotional stuff that we see with Nayuta and Denji's break is pretty much out of the way for the moment. Or rather, should I say, it's on pause. And the immediate consequences of his actions are being realized. Now, obviously, we've been talking multiple times throughout just Chainsaw Man's serialization about what would happen if Denji's heart was to be compromised because of the fact that Pochita is fused with it and all of that type of stuff. Here, I was so worried. I was like, fuck, are we finally going to see what happens if he takes direct, you know, direct injuries to his heart? But it doesn't seem like they're trying to, it doesn't seem like public safety here, at least what I had thought at the time as well too. It does not seem like they are just trying to completely get rid of him and break him down as a devil and destroy him per se. This is just so that he can't regenerate, because similar to Quanxi, he has the ability to just regenerate. All he needs is some blood, the same way that we saw with Power and Denji's ruthless training with Kishibe back just before, you know, all of this started, which feels like a billion years ago really at this point. All they need is a pack of blood and they're good, but they feel it all. And Denji looks just absolutely horrific on this table, man. He's been completely stripped naked. His eyes just look horrific. He's locked in by his neck even as well too. And it's just like, this is just every day for these surgeons. They just have to do this shit all the time. He's in this crazy facility. He's being watched over by this member of public safety. And apparently we're under orders to kill Chainsaw Man if he flees. But apparently in the Tokyo Devil Detention Center, it would take a war for him to escape. And then we see Asa/Yoru standing at the very end of the chapter as we see the detention center just through the very bottom of her legs, like through her calves and stuff like that. Now, this shit had me so fucking incredibly hyped, man, that I cannot even begin to explain how much I wanted to talk about it, yet at the same time, how much I just did not understand what the fuck was going on. I did not understand a single thing, and really, like, none of it started to kind of like come into view, I think, even until recently, because when we get to College Fund, like, you know, the next chapter, she's obviously here with Fami. So Asa's here with Fami. You know, like, Lord knows what's going down out here, bro. Of course, you know, Fami, she's got her own things that she's doing out here. I still don't necessarily know if we trust her or if we don't or whatever. I mean, she's one of the horsemen of the apocalypse, but also at the same time, so is Yoru. But like, so many different things obviously surround Fami as far as question marks are concerned. But the fact that Asa is here and she's finally made a comeback made me so incredibly happy. Now, this actually happens to be one of my favorite chapters just because we finally see a lot of things circling back around. Of course, seeing Asa again makes me really happy because regardless of what people say about Asa, whether people love her or whether people hate her or whatever, even though I am on Desert Copium just like everyone else, even though I am on Power Copium, but that Copium just, it seems even further out of reach every chapter. I don't think she's coming back for a long time, man. Or Desert either. She's probably back in the USSR, bro. What other reason does she have to be here? With Asa, I love her. I think that she's absolutely hilarious. She's obviously got, I think, a lot more as far as her character is concerned to it. But at the same time, this chapter really made me very interested, I think, again, in seeing what happened with Asa behind the scenes whilst all this shit was going on. Because Fami talks about the purchasing of the college fund turrets as a result of Asa's TV appearances. She's had all of this other stuff happen in the meantime, and she actually made fucking bank. Now, naturally, these turrets she was able to purchase. She was able to turn these things into a weapon based on a contract that she had signed with Fami, and she's able to do that without touching them now, which is incredible. Goes to show just how incredibly strong the fears of war have become as well too, which Fami even mentions. And just seeing, again, this mechanic at play, like the way that the fears of people fuel these devils and make them so much stronger, is absolutely mental. God forbid what's going to happen when and if Yoru eventually gets her hands back on nuclear weapons, because that shit will be fucking insane. Like, quite literally, if we're talking, you know, horsemen of the apocalypse, and we're talking about the apocalypse as well too, nuclear weapons are practically fucking synonymous. You know, mutually assured destruction as well too. So we've got all of these different types of things that circle back around. But I have questions about Asa, and even though I'm kind of, you know, sad that we haven't seen what happened so far as that character building is concerned, I have hope maybe that we might see it in a flashback at some point. But the thing that I love about Asa is that she is completely inexperienced to a T. Of course, Fami says, Asa, you can make a mistake at any time, so make sure to be careful. Don't do anything fucking stupid right before she eats shit and falls right on her fucking face. And I absolutely adore it. It's great. It's the best thing, man. I think it's so funny how you've got such a serious manga. You've got such an insane manga, I think, as far as like the way that things are drawn. The psychology of this sometimes is absolutely just, it's just frightening to see what's going on with some of these chapters. And the chapter before, you've got Denji being dismembered, and then Asa just falls on her face immediately. Like nothing, there's nothing there. She just trips over herself, trips over absolute fucking air, and she just eats shit. And I find it hilarious because she's just broken into this detention center, which apparently needs the power of essentially the War Devil to be able to break into, let alone break out of, especially breaking Chainsaw Man out. Now, questions I have is that Fami knows exactly where Chainsaw Man is. She knows exactly where Denji is. And of course, Asa has a debt that she owes to Chainsaw Man. She wants to save him the same way that he has saved her. But Chainsaw Man is not currently active at the moment. Chainsaw Man and his chainsaws have been retracted. All she's going to see is a decapitated Denji. She's just going to see Denji cut up into absolute fucking pieces. And I would love to see how she's going to react to that, because if she goes off the rails, if she goes crazy, if she starts turning shit into whatever it is that she can find, God knows what type of situation we're going to have on our hands. Now, 2 high school girls have just broken into the Tokyo Devil Detention Center, and apparently fucking Fami just happens to have, you know, gone ahead and crossed into another story real quick and brought back one of Sukuna's fingers. I know this is probably a joke heaps of people have talked about, but I had no idea what the fuck we were in for until we got Gyoni, and then all of a sudden we have fucking Gyoni the Guillotine. Now, bro, this, like, you know, when I'm talking about, like, just Fujimoto clownery and just Fujimoto at its best, it's just crazy to me how I'm still living off of every single panel with bated breath when it just seems like the man's on crack. It's insane to me. It's absolutely crazy that you've got this fucking pigeon that does nothing but screech, Gyoni! And then, of course, he's a guillotine, but he doesn't actually, like, wind up, you know, chopping off people's heads. He just disarms them. He obviously is far weaker because Fami starves those who are under her control. And you can see this with the way that Gyoni is actually built, because, you know, you've got, I mean, he's dead anyway. He is a devil, so it's not like Mans is going to be like super beefy or something like that, or, you know, have meat on the bones, but he's quite literally just bones. He has been starved by famine, evidently, and that shows in his power and his inability to be able to actually cut people's heads off and actually like completely incapacitate them. He's only able to just disarm them, essentially. That being said, I did think that this was pretty interesting though, because there are many instances in, you know, like the Renaissance and stuff like that, especially when the guillotine was being used widely, of the guillotine not actually working correctly, in as much as maybe the blade wasn't sharp enough, it didn't drop correctly, and so people didn't actually die instantly. And I actually kind of like the fact that you can read into that from Gyoni's failure to be able to actually kill those around him that he's actually aiming for as well too. Now, Gilly and his use became pretty redundant, I think, quite quickly. Of course, as we see in chapter 159, he is meant to obviously appear again. He's quite useless in terms of being able to defend Fami, as Katana Man, of all people, comes back in the field of view. Naturally, I think 158 and 159 blend together and read quite well, as far as at least we get to see Bro Benny and, you know, some of the high schoolers, again, too, kind of coming back into the fray. That being said, I really didn't expect and don't expect them to be of any use as we continue, but at the time I was like, all right, what the fuck are they doing back here? Like, welcome back, I guess. And, you know, of course, things wind up getting hairy pretty quickly. We run into the public safety official for the first time, as far as this group is concerned. The one who was overlooking Denji's dismemberment and basically was telling us that no one is able to break out of this detention center. It would take a war to do so. And funnily enough, War is the one who is right in front of him, who has appeared. Now, we find out that his wife has been turned into a chainsaw as well too. He's obviously a piece of shit because he's gone ahead and cheated on her. As far as he is concerned, he's done nothing wrong in his life and obviously wants to sulk about it. Yoru's very upset, and of course, naturally, so is Asa. So we wind up getting to the climax, obviously getting really upset at him, only for then Yoru to go ahead and beat the absolute living shit out of Fami by getting her out of the way with one of the craziest kicks I think I've seen in a while. Fami is bleeding. She does say that there's restrictions on how much she can use things like Gilly and stuff like that. And naturally, I would assume that she starved them. She is famine as well too. And so naturally, there must be restrictions to what she can do and how long she can actually fight for as well too. She's quite petite, she's frail herself, she doesn't necessarily have the ability, it seems, and I will probably eat my words, or not eat my words if we're talking about famine in that case, but I will obviously have to retract these at some point if, though, she happens to become an absolute fucking insane fighter somehow by some crazy miracle or whatever, because at the moment she's being pushed around and of course seems relatively frail, but who really fucking knows as far as Fujimoto and just this story is concerned. But she's on the ground, Katana Man comes back into view, and it's anyone's fucking game from here, man. Obviously Katana Man and the other hybrids, so the Nail hybrid, you know, reappearing back into this situation as well too. They're about to find out about Chainsaw Man. We've obviously got an entire crew going after Chainsaw Man right now, but my man isn't even a man right now. He's just chainsaw pieces, you know. He's been dismembered, he's likely been put into fucking Ziploc bags. It's everyone's worst nightmare when they go out clubbing or something like that and then they woke up in a fucking bathtub. But instead for Denji, he's gone ahead and he's woken up in a Ziploc bag on one side of the country and then in a fucking Tupperware container in another part or some shit like that. And it's absolutely insane just to consider what it is that they're about to walk in on and potentially find. Now, back in the beginning of the video, for those of you guys who are still here at least, thank you. Post yellow strawberries down in the comments below if you made it this far. So a little yellow heart and then a strawberry emoticon. I don't fucking know. 160 was, I think, probably the point for me that finally my goat, he went to the parlor, he got shampooed, he got conditioned, he was rinsed, and he became clean. 160 was where I think I finally started to see again that Fujimoto magic, that payoff, that vibe, where his storytelling started to make sense. Obviously, everything that he was putting down earlier was making sense. I've wanted to reread all of part 2 up until this point, and I likely will read the most recent 62 chapters rather, should I say, until my next review and stuff like that, which might be in another 4 chapters or so. But everything has made sense. I think when you read it all back to back to back, when you read it together, the Chainsaw Man Church arc feels way better to me, if you know what I mean, as opposed to waiting, you know, weeks and stuff like that for things to drop. There is obviously something special about being there when chapters do drop, but also at the same time, I feel like the reading comprehension devil and just the comprehension devil in general pins every single one of us down, and a lot of people, myself included, are like, what the fuck is going on? Naturally, pacing sometimes can, you know, kill things a little bit as well too, but it's been really cool, I think, to read at least the Chainsaw Man Church arc again before this, because seeing Katana Man obviously come back into the fray, seeing the way that this has been written, seeing the fact that he happens to be a fan of Asa Mitaka and that she's got poems and stuff, again, like I want to know more about this, seeing that he obviously has become so infatuated over the course of time that we have not seen him with, you know, Asa and her poems and what's going on and all of that type of stuff. I think it's just so fun. There's so much to this. And of course, naturally, we have decided that along with Yoru, along with Fami and everyone else, that we have a goal. Obviously, we have underlying fundamental goals. We have bottom lines that we have to achieve. And as devils, we are not going to let anything compromise that. We're going to steel our resolve and we're going to make sure that we achieve what it is that we want to achieve. Now, this public safety official, like I think the rest of public safety, is a fucking idiot. He obviously has no idea what it is that these devils operate for, and he's trying to hold them by the neck with real world goals and with superficial things which neither of them care about at all. Now, Katana Man, apparently his syndicate might be making a comeback, but Katana Man says that killing Chainsaw Man is the reason that his heart still beats. That's all that he wants. He wants to get rid of Chainsaw Man at all costs, and he wants to be the one to do it, because at the end of the day, the pride that is on the line, the revenge for his grandfather's death, is all that he wants. And the syndicate, realistically, he could go ahead and he could wind up getting this shit back later. He doesn't listen to public safety. He's only cooperating because he's just simply cooperating at this point. And the same thing goes for the Nail Fiend as well too. They also don't want to cooperate. And this just shows that devils and humans aren't on the same level. Devils only cooperate with humans because they want to, or they are doing it for a means to an end. But humans have every right to be scared of the devils that they are currently up against, because their power, so we've seen so far, is obviously considerably more than anything that we can muster up as far as individual humans are concerned. And this is why this public safety official flees. He knows that he can't take everyone on at once, but he's going to go and get someone who apparently can. And I had thought about this at the time as well too. I was like, well, who else would be able to take out these individuals? And of course, as we wind up seeing, it's none other than our girl Quanxi. And I fucking love Quanxi, but we'll get there in a second. Now, the end of this chapter is what makes this my favorite thing, because we see callbacks, we see the comedy, I think the fun side of Katana Man as well too, but the fun side in as much as he's just as much of an idiot as he always has been, and I love him for that. I really do. You know, he's strong, he's powerful, but he's also a fucking dickhead. He's a little bit of a Asa Mitaka otaku in terms of like the fact that he follows her poems and stuff like that. But then we do see as well too Yoru being the most important distinction as opposed to Asa. The reason my heart's beating is to fight Chainsaw Man. And he says, I'd expect no less from Chainsaw Man's woman. She's already stealing my lines. Now that, ladies and gentlemen, that everyone, is what made me just go, oh my God. And I clapped. I clapped. After the chapter finished, I clapped. I went, oh, this is incredible. Fuck, we're finally back. We are back, baby. Now, of course, what that means, I don't know whether or not the Asa-den shippers were having the time of their life at the time, and I'm sure that they would have been as well too. I don't really see this as a romance manga in many aspects, but if it was Asa and Denji, I'd be happy anyway at the end. Regardless, you know, I've resigned myself to thinking, and at least this is the way that I like to think about it, that, you know, of course, Power and Denji are just platonic in terms of the way that they love and care for each other. They care about each other a lot, and Also, you know, he wants to bring power back and seek after her in that way as well too, to have her by his side so that he can look after her and she can look after him the same way that they both used to make each other feel comfortable, because they've been through a lot, you know, they've got a shared experience, and I can't wait to hopefully see that happen again. I really do hope that it happens again. Fuck, man. That's just me though. But Asa and Denji, I see it, but it's not Asa that we see say that. Of course it is in a way, but the reason my heart's beating is to fight Chainsaw Man is said by Yoru, said by War. Now, for me personally, this can mean a lot of different things. Of course, she didn't say that she wants to kill Chainsaw Man here. I don't know what exactly the Japanese chapters look like, but tatakao and koros are obviously two completely different words, so I would doubt that they would be mixed up. Of course, she said that she wants to fight Chainsaw Man as opposed to kill him, and I think that this is just simply that she wants him to vomit back up nuclear weapons. She wants to get that shit back. She'll do it at any cost. But I wonder if Yoru has actually like established via Asa as well too some sort of like emotional attachment to Chainsaw Man. And whilst we're on this topic, another thing that I've been thinking of as well too is that obviously Yoru and Asa, I'm going to talk about them as essentially the same person because they work with the same body. Yoru / Asa, they can change things into weapons now without even touching things. And of course, they're becoming closer. They're becoming far more cooperative with one another as well too. And what I'm wondering and worrying about at this point, worrying I'll use lightly because I'm not necessarily worried, but I'm curious to see whether or not they are going to become a weapon themselves. To see whether or not they might become a weapon themselves on Chainsaw Man's side to defend Chainsaw Man from, you know, of course, the prophecy that's about to take place or whatever kind of fucking thing is about to stand in our way. Because really, do we know what it's going to be? Fuck no, man. Like, I wonder whether or not Asa winds up turning Yoru into a weapon or vice versa, or what winds up happening with that as well too. Maybe I'm far off with that, but that's a thought that I've had. But I love being able to see, one, the comparison of Yoru and Asa to being Chainsaw Man's woman, right? But also then on top of that as well too, to see that there is a discrepancy between the goals of Asa and of course the goals of Katana Man in terms of how they want to deal with Chainsaw Man, yet they have an overlapping goal of locating Chainsaw Man and getting him out of here in some way, shape or form so that no one else has the glory of being able to take him down first. I think is really fucking fun. Now, kind of attaching back onto what I was saying about love and this whole idea of relationships and, you know, Yoru and Asa becoming at least somewhat closer to Denji / Chainsaw Man. One thing that I'm kind of looking into a little bit with that is this whole idea of like having game. Of course, you know, 161 touches on this a little bit, and you see just really how much of an absolute fucking dumb shit Katana Man is. I mean, he says chores are for kids, but he's got the brain of one. And, you know, like, we find Chainsaw Man's wiener and he's like, shove it up his ass, stick it up his fucking ass. And, you know, he's having a top keck. He's, you know, having a good old time with his crackhead teeth. His character design has definitely, it's become worse for wear, rather, should we say. He's been up to no good, at least as far as, you know, the illicit substances are concerned. Perhaps he's been around him too much. But it's funny to see how Yoru jumps in. Of course, she's not helping as far as like Chainsaw Man's, you know, reassembly is concerned and stuff like that, because she's injured. Asa's injured. But she says that she wants Chainsaw Man in perfect condition when she fights him. This is a matter of pride for her, you know. And funnily enough, considering war and, you know, all's fair in love and war, the fact that War could potentially be in love with Chainsaw Man, I think is a really interesting thing to kind of like talk about, or at least being in love with the idea of fighting him, because she has been infatuated with and had her sights set on Chainsaw Man and fighting him this entire time. She's had no other goal. Of course, she's got a motive to be able to do so as well too. But she does say that I don't need game. Love is worthless. All it does is turn you foolish. And I don't think that we're just saying this for no reason. I think that perhaps it's a general thing that we're trying to sidestep around. We're trying to actively evade that. Perhaps Yoru might be aware that Asa has those feelings, and naturally, even though Yoru is within Asa's body and stuff like that, how much they share as far as their emotions and stuff like that is concerned as well too, unless I'm completely misremembering, is really kind of like up for debate, at least as far as I'm concerned. And so anything is within the realm of possibility as far as War herself potentially turning foolish in order to be actually able to defend Chainsaw Man one day as well too. Perhaps that's what she might actually eventually wind up doing, especially if she doesn't wind up ending his life. She wants him in perfect condition, which means there's definitely something that she wants to protect. And whether she sees it that way or not, she is actually protecting Chainsaw Man and making sure that his life is not taken, at least before she has the ability to do so. But I would love to see whether or not she does actually wind up protecting him in the long run as well too. Now, that being said, man, it's obviously an absolute fucking insane time out here that we're having in this surgery room. The doctors look nothing short of just absolutely just fucking sick of everything that's happening here. They say, well, I guess we've got intruders, so you want to take a 5-minute breather? Like, do you guys want to take a break? And I think that's absolutely crazy. It's crazy that perhaps this is a regular occurrence, you know what I mean? Like, this is the Devil Detention Center. This is supposed to be airtight. There's supposed to be no way that anyone gets out, and as you would assume, there's supposed to be no way that anyone gets in. But they're like, well, I guess we got intruders. I guess it's that time of the day, so let's take a 5-minute break. And then, naturally, they're demanding an apology out here. They're like, hey, fuck you. You knocked over those boxes, and we just cut him up perfectly, and now you're just gonna reassemble him like I've just wasted the last 2 hours of my fucking life, or some shit like that. I don't get paid enough for this. And you can tell that they obviously don't, but I love this, like, light-hearted, more jarring writing from Fujimoto. I always think it's so fun to be able to see just how, like, these situations are absolutely horrific. We've got Chainsaw Man's guts in one of the people's hands. Of course, Bro Benny says, I'm sorry that we intruded. I'm sorry that we knocked over the boxes. I'm sorry that we ruined your day, in classic fucking Bro Benny style. And then we discover the head. We find out that, you know, Denji actually is Chainsaw Man. Asa Mitaka, isn't this your boyfriend? And Asa and Yoru, they look only to then be disrupted by the fucking public safety servant and none other than Quanxi. Now, bro, Quanxi, she's such a baddie, bro. Every single time Quanxi is mentioned, I feel like I go fucking feral, but then again, so does the entire Chainsaw Man fandom, because, you know, she's just that much of a bad bitch. And indeed, as chapter 162 is aptly titled, she is fearsome, but she is not as fearsome as Chainsaw Man himself. Now, again, with the theme of public safety devils turning their backs on public safety and saying, lol, fuck you, she basically does exactly the same thing. Nail basically tries to, you know, fucking pull a Kugisaki Nobara on her and, you know, try and distract Quanxi and stuff like that, while Samurai, so Katana Man charges up for an attack. He just winds up getting fucking beheaded, so I guess we're not going to hear any more wisecrack out of him anytime soon. And then Quanxi basically drops a bombshell, saying that she was warned by a specific individual not to mess with Chainsaw Man, aka Denji. Now, that specific individual can be none other an old friend than Kishibe. And I like, again, bro, Quanxi and Kishibe, I just need, like, you know, I need something. Of course, you know, she's been threatened with her girls again by public safety, and naturally that's what she wants. She wants to be able to protect them, even though she is a devil and, you know, she's got all of this type of stuff going on, but she wants to be able to protect them. But she has also become aware of the fact that, like, she didn't know that she was going to have to be dealing with Chainsaw Man. And she doesn't want to fuck with that. She doesn't want to fuck with that, because even though she is more powerful than most devils that we have seen so far, even though Quanxi has got the ability to just cut people open at will, and as we saw even back, I think it was 15 to 20 chapters ago at this point, when, you know, Barem and Co and the Chainsaw Man Church were trying to, you know, kick off their operation, you know, at that station and stuff like that. She massacred a total of you know, a couple of people in negative seconds. Like, she just absolutely went fucking insane, and there was no time to react. Now, she could likely do exactly the same thing to Chainsaw Man to be able to incapacitate him and to get rid of him. Of course, naturally, as we saw, even Kishibe as well too was so incredibly strong when he was training Power and he was training Denji. And of course, Quanxi is even a step up from that as well too. Now, he's weaker, but he's far more fearsome than Quanxi. And in line with his title as the hero of hell, in line with everything that we've heard, even in earlier chapters, about the moment that devils hear that ripcord, it's over. That ripcord of the chainsaw starting, reminds them of instant death and what that means, and who he is in hell, who Chainsaw Man actually is as far as his reputation as a devil killer, as a devil hunter is concerned itself as well too, is far more fearsome and is far more powerful than just sheer raw power itself. And I think that that's an absolutely fucking insane note to end not only just this video on, but especially 162. Quanxi says that, you know, she'll just pretend that she lost, kill me, go ahead and do it. Who knows whether or not Yoru is going to. She's obviously got the scalpel knife out, and so really anything goes from here. Of course, the public safety agent, he's a fucking dickhead, and he winds up getting chewed up by his wife anyway, and so he should get chewed out, quite literally, for having an affair. And she heard that shit, and she's like, alright, well, fuck you too. But it's just kind of like crazy to consider that all of this has happened in the last 10 chapters. It's crazy to consider that even Quanxi dropping a bombshell like that, saying that instead what we shouldn't be thinking about necessarily is pure raw power in terms of who is stronger, who has the ability to overpower who, but rather what other types of abilities do individuals possess that can be used to their advantage to turn the tides of battle. And this is the problem with Chainsaw Man. This is the problem with fighting Chainsaw Man himself, is that it's not about raw power, it's about how fearsome one is. It's about how feared one is as well too, as to how powerful they become as well too. And as we know, obviously people themselves are scared of chainsaws. Obviously people themselves in this world as well too have, you know, different fears and stuff like that that they hold and that they wind up fueling as far as, you know, those devils and their powers are concerned. But basically Chainsaw Man is feared by almost all devils, at least as far as this is concerned. He is feared by the fears. He is feared by the fears in hell. And that has got to mean something. That's got to count for something. And I can't wait to just kind of like see how this continues and to see how this builds even more, man. Now, I did also mention at the start of the video that I would go ahead and I'd talk about some things towards the end of the video that I kind of like seen as criticisms of Chainsaw Man and stuff like that, especially recently. I mean, naturally, there's a bunch of people out there, I think, who have valid criticisms, and then there's also a bunch of people who just think that everything is shit and that they can only like one manga at a time and that this is peak art or this is peak fiction and nothing else can be good or nothing else can be enjoyed at the same time. And, you know, obviously sifting through those criticisms, I think a lot of people have had various criticisms of the art, and especially with part 2, people have kind of like, I think, locked in and dialed in on this belief that Fujimoto basically has fallen off. Obviously he's in a completely different type of mindset. Maybe he hates it and all of that type of stuff, and all of this type of thing. I think that there's tons of different assumptions, and I just kind of basically wanted to say my opinion on it. Now, basically for me, as a new manga reader, and I say new because I guess I'm still new. I haven't read a whole lot. I'm still reading a lot at the moment, and, you know, I guess I only just recently really got in through Chainsaw Man, so I'm not going to pretend like I've been here for like a decade or that I know anything about what I'm talking about with art or anything. But to me personally, Fujimoto strikes me as the type of artist and the type of storyteller who does things, I think, even without potentially realizing it. And what I mean by that is, I feel like you could say that it's intentional, you could say that it's unintentional, but I think that the art style, especially in recent, like, you know, like the last recent, I would say 20 to 30 chapters, it definitely has started to change. Now, you can go ahead and you can speculate as to whatever reason that is. He's fallen off, or he's tired, or he wants to drop the manga, he doesn't care anymore, or something like that. But I think that there's plenty of examples where his art still holds up to be beautiful. I mean, you see the details in some of the backgrounds that he draws. Of course, at the same time, even that montage with Nayuta, of course, recalling her experience with Denji, you've got like these beautiful scenes where it's super detailed of the shoes at the front door and, you know, the toothbrush, like the toothbrushes on the windowsill and stuff like that in the cup and all of that type of stuff. So it shows that, like, he is still a brilliant artist. He's still got obviously the ability to do everything that we've come to know and love him for. But I think that for me personally, the art becoming a little bit more scratchy, the art becoming a lot less refined, the art being a lot more, I guess you could say, disjointed and chaotic, is directly in line with where the story is going. Now, I said earlier, and I've said throughout the course of this video as well too, that, you know, there's been points where I have not known what the fuck is going on. Like, things are just going absolutely insane. And so does Denji. Denji's mental state has been so incredibly chaotic and volatile, and the pacing of this story as well too, just the way that things have moved sometimes at explosive pace and then slowed down, have been, I think, to some extent disorienting. And sometimes that's what this art shows as well too. And I don't know whether or not this is intentional. I don't know whether or not Fujimoto's done that for a specific reason, or if it's a combination of perhaps he is actually tired, perhaps that's why we need to take all of these long breaks, and all of these other things are weighing on him as well too. But I really do like the fact that you can even read into the art and its messiness as being intentional, and as being a reflection of the character's mental state, as being a reflection of the protagonist's mental state, because really it adds a different type of edge to Chainsaw Man. I think where you see that everything is not refined, everything is not clean lines. Sometimes it's these really scratchy, very roughly drawn lines to outline characters' faces and stuff like that. Sometimes it's battle scenes that make no fucking sense, and it's just carnage and it's unidentifiable. But in situations where this would occur, say like in real life, where, like, you know, people were being blown to bits or something like that, it's relatively realistic, in as much as people aren't supposed to be like identifiable if they've been cut up into, you know, thousands of pieces or something like that, or if they've been mauled by a chainsaw or something. Like, not everything is that clean, and whilst we would love to make sense of it, the fact that we can't make sense of it means that we kind of also can't make sense of why it is that characters are doing things. And this is largely, I think, something that has been a pretty common theme, not just throughout Chainsaw Man in general, but especially part 2 with, you know, the rise of the Chainsaw Man Church, the Horsemen, the Nostradamus' prophecy, and all of that type of stuff. So many things are left unanswered. So many things just have these disjointed question marks vaguely attached to them and stuff like that. And the art reflects that. And personally, for me, I love it. I actually think that it's really cool. It's got character. It's got a certain sense of... it's got like a buzz to it, if that makes sense. I don't know necessarily whether or not that resonates with anyone else. And, you know, I will go ahead and I will say, like, I will happily dick ride Chainsaw Man to the very end, and I'll say that it is definitely a fucking brilliant story, because part 1 I love, part 2 also I love. I think that Chainsaw Man as a story is better read binged, but at the same time not. I think it's better read when there's a lot of source material for you to be able to consume ahead. I don't think that it's better read binged in terms of like the pace at which you go through stuff, because there's a lot. Like, it's obviously a shit ton, and you know, I think that you do yourself a disservice and the story a disservice if you go through it all at once. But pacing and all of those other types of arguments, I think I understand that for sure. Like, I think I get why that would be tough, because I do think that Chainsaw Man is written as a story where things unfold piece by piece. He's giving us breadcrumbs, but we don't know where the breadcrumbs are leading, and we don't even know if they're leading anywhere. Like, we go on one plot point and potentially we wind up not coming back to that for maybe like 100 fucking chapters. Who really knows at this point? Like, Power, we haven't seen her forever. Reze, we haven't seen her forever, but people are still on fucking Cope out here like there's no tomorrow. There's Cope on Kishibe returning as well too. There's all of these different things, and Fujimoto, I think, is He's doing an absolute hell of a lot to keep people guessing, but also at the same time, I think the art reflects that, because also there's this element of uncertainty. Things aren't as clear cut as we would like them to be as well too, because in this situation, in real life even as well too, things are not clear cut, and I think that you can really see that through Chainsaw Man. And things are difficult to predict. Things are becoming even more difficult to comprehend. But, you know, we might even wind up seeing a change in the art style again, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether we do or whether we don't. But either way, man, that's just kind of like what I wanted to say on it. I don't think that it's bad. I respect that some people don't like where the art style has gone, because art matters a lot to people and stuff like that, you know, but I just kind of consider that the art and its messiness, or its scratchiness, I guess you could say, its chaotic nature kind of adds to and reflects, I think, the mentality of the characters and just the state of the story and how precarious our situation is right now. Now, look, man, I don't know whether or not you guys dig this type of video. Let me know down in the comments below if you do. It was a lot. There was a lot of yapping going on and stuff like that. But do I have regrets? I don't. I just really enjoyed being able to talk about this and finally being able to get off some thoughts that I've been thinking about for a really long time. Of course, I tried not to recap things as much as possible and just try and keep them within the context of what I was talking about. I think the things that I'm thinking about the most at the moment are what nuclear weapons are going to look like, and what Yoru's relationship, so Yoru and Asa's relationship with Denji, is going to be like moving forward, especially now that Asa has discovered that Denji is Chainsaw Man. She might just simply say that there must have been a mistake. She might try and deny it, but of course there's a lot that is going to be really awesome to flesh out there. Seeing Quanxi step back in, and the mention of Kishibe as well too. I can't wait to potentially see that again. And I'm not going to specifically say anything just because I don't want to jinx returns or anything like that. I really feel like we've been jinxing, you know, the Dezen, the fucking power copium and shit like that forever. So I just think it's best that I don't mention anything, at least as far as I'm concerned, just because I'm superstitious as hell. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see whether certain individuals wind up making comebacks. And also, more than anything, where the fuck is Nayuta? And what was her role in this? Did she have a role? I'm a little bit suspicious as to how Denji wound up getting to the hospital. Of course, I think that suspicion is adequately well-founded, purely just because Nayuta was shown as having resigned herself to filling Denji up with happiness, you know, getting rid of him. I do also want to believe, to a certain extent, though, that this is just kind of like what she was seeing and what she believed, and that, you know, over time, life with Denji had actually proven to be pretty damn good, and that's what she wants to hold on to instead. But we'll see, man. I feel bad for Denji, and I also feel good for him at the same time, because there are individuals out there who seem to have his interests, at least, I guess you could say, at heart to a certain extent. Of course, there's people here who are here to break him out. Obviously, this means that he's going to have to fight more people as well, too, in the long run. But no one's a hero here. No one is a hero in this story. And I really can't predict how Chainsaw Man's going to end, but I think it's going to be quite profound, or it's either just going to be extremely confusing. But either way, I can't wait to continue with more chapters. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Of course, if you had any thoughts on this massive yap that I had today. But until next time, take care, stay safe. Love and appreciate you guys. Subscribe for more. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.